Hey everyone, welcome to Murders in Paradise, a new podcast from the Golden Ratio team, which is basically me, Jen. And what do you want to be called on this podcast?
GR Dad for now. I don't think I have a good handle.
I mean, that's cool. It's like the captain.
I mean, I'm kind of along for the ride, TBH. Let me not preview this too much, but so far I'm like eye candy on the radio.
I think you're great.
Yeah.
And, okay. So, welcome to Murders in Paradise. I am Jen, joined as always by GR Dad.
Hello.
This podcast is not about the dogs, though you will hear our very famous dogs in the background, panting.
It's inevitable.
Drinking, occasionally squeaking. It is the background of this podcast.
Maybe itching themselves.
So, for those of you who don't know us, which is probably no one since this is episode 1.
If you don't know us, congratulations for finding this. Good job.
Yeah. So, we are Jen and GR Dad. We run the Golden Ratio 4 on every social media platform, which is a dose of wholesome goodness. That is our 5 golden retrievers coming onto your timeline with some happy messages. So if you need a little more joy and fluffiness in your life, you can follow us there. And we have a podcast where we talk about the dogs and other rambly things. But we also live part-time in the Florida Keys. And I, at least, am a true crime fanatic. Jared, you listen to a decent number of true crime podcasts, though, I think because I bring you along for the ride.
Bring me along for many rides. Yeah, the crimes, I like the forensics. The crimes creep me out sometimes.
All right, that's one of our dogs. She needs to go out, which always happens about 2 minutes into a podcast, so let's tend to her. Okay, we're done tending to Venkman. So yeah, you're going to have to expect some of that in this podcast. But so we live part-time in the Florida Keys, and Florida man stories are good, but Florida man murder stories are better. And we talk a little bit about weird Keys news on the other podcast, but I decided it was time for a second podcast where we could talk about Florida Keys murders.
You mean more serious crimes than small fish?
Right. Two small fish is...
Big lobsters?
Yes. So that's this podcast. And so that's us. We will probably be a little bit rambly. We will probably joke around a little bit, but not joking around because we think the murders are funny. Just... life is absurd.
Yeah.
And there you go. So I have a big list of Florida Keys murders. Someone was like, are there really enough murders in the Florida Keys? Yeah, man, there are a lot of them. Even though the Keys are relatively small, it's like 100,000 people. I mean, it's very long, 100,000 people. And a lot of them murder other people, it turns out.
Yeah, I think you select the more interesting of the Florida people into the Keys already. I mean, it's like your subset of a subset.
Yeah. I mean, it's the more isolated you get. Florida's kind of isolated because it's its own little peninsula, and then the Keys are the most isolated.
You have a reason to want to get away from people, or if people want you to get away from them, maybe you end up in the Keys. Say
the people who live like 5 months of the year in the Keys.
Oh, I like getting away from people. That's fine.
Yep.
I'm not down there to murder anyone, though.
Hopefully not.
Not guaranteed. I'm not down there to murder anyone.
All right. So this week for our kickoff episode, we're doing the murder of Mark Brann. This is a relatively recent murder.
Usually 3 names means it's the killer.
That's actually just because like there's a bunch of people named like Mark Brann, for example, and you don't want them. I looked it up. There's a bunch of them. And so putting the middle name helps you figure out.
Because it is like for all the serial killers, right? They always say all 3 names. So it sounds like that's a hallmark.
That's just because there's like a lot of
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, Lee
Harvey
Oswald, John Gacy's. There's a bunch of them, and so you don't want like the poor pharmacist getting besmirched by the serial killer. So use the middle name so he can go no, I'm John
Gacy.
Yeah, like John Roberts Gacy instead of John Marie Gacy, whatever. Wayne. Yeah, he was named after John Wayne. Oh, actually.
Doesn't that get better? How do you know these things?
I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. I'm also getting over pneumonia, so I'm going to cough sometimes. And if you're used to it if you listen to the other podcast, but it eventually will go away.
And actually, it's a lot better.
It's so much better. Okay. This week we're doing the murder of Mark Brann. Brann. So he was murdered August 15th, 2017. This is a month before Hurricane Irma came through the Keys.
2017.
2017. He was 67 at the time that he was killed. He lived in Key West. He had a really nice house. There's a picture of it in the Florida Keys newspapers, in the Key West Citizen, where I got a lot of this information. So he lived in a nice house. He was born in 1950 in Richmond, Indiana, which is kind of on the Ohio border, and it's kind of the middle of nowhere. Grew up, he had a brother and two sisters. He liked to ride bikes. He worked on cars. His obituary said he protected his sisters from bullies and frequented Indiana's famous Pizza King franchise, which I think is like some just cute little details about him. He did construction work and hog farming for a while in Indiana. And then in 1980, when he was 30 years old, he moved to West Palm Beach. He did some design there. He worked on the beaches, and then eventually he moved down to Key West, where he kept working on like beach management. But eventually he met this guy, Andy Hetu, I think is how you say it, Hetu. And they became really great friends and business partners and opened up a business called A&M Scooter Rental, which is like right in the heart of downtown Key West. This is a big thing that tourists do when they come to the Keys. They rent little scooters and get drunk and zip around Key West
like
on them.
Vespas.
Yeah, like little Vespas. And he was really great friends with Andy and his family. So Andy had a wife, Christine, and they had a few kids. It says that Andy and Christine's son, Matthew, also was really great friends with Mark, our victim in this case. So he seemed to have like a really good connection in the community. More recently, after it opened up, he started going to Havana a lot because you can fly direct to Havana from Key West Airport. And just seemed to kind of be your stereotypical kind of Key West guy, like sort of an aging hippie, right? He was born in 1950, so he would have been 18 in 1968.
I suppose. Although Indiana might not be too hippie.
Well, he left.
Yeah,
so that's something.
That's fair.
And it said his wish was to be buried next to his business partner and best friend, Andy Hetu, which really shows you like how close they were. But Andy was married, so this is not like a romantic relationship from what anything seems like that I read. And he said that his obituary said instead of flowers that you could make contributions to Bone Island Jiu-Jitsu. So Bone Island is, so Key West is actually a kind of bastardation of Calhoun, which is Bone Island, because there were a lot of bones there. And so he apparently did jiu-jitsu in Key West, which is pretty cool.
Sounds pretty good. That's all pretty good.
Yeah, so I was trying to find out some other stuff about him. And there was an interview with him in the Quad City Times in 2005.
Is that from The Simpsons?
No.
That's the Tri-City area.
So the Quad City Times did an article about Hurricane Wilma coming through the Florida Keys in 2005. And so I'm going to read you a quote from there. It says, "In the low-lying, vulnerable Keys, the normally crowded historic district in Key West was eerily quiet on Thursday. Tourists and non-residents were already asked to leave. A mandatory evacuation of residents was expected to start Friday, although some did not seem to be hurried. Mark Brann was relaxing outside Andy's scooter shop where he works. He had little to do without tourists. What are you going to do? They don't know where the storm's going," he said, adding that he thinks he will be safe in his 7th floor condominium. So you can just imagine, I just picture him like sitting in a lawn chair out in front of the scooter place, maybe having a drink.
Fruity drink.
Yep. So I thought that was just, most of what you find about him is about the murder, but I thought that was a cute little thing in this article, just him going like, yeah, well, no tourists here, what are you going to do?
He was a real person.
Yep.
Good guy. Sounds like a good guy.
So, onto the actual murder. This is a crazy story, and the more I read about it, the crazier it got. So, our perpetrator is Justin Calhoun. Justin is transgender woman.
Just 2 names, though.
Yeah, just 2 names, and I couldn't find a woman's name for Justin, even though Justin is now in protective custody. Spoiler alert, they catch Justin. Because she's transgender. The police reports, like some of them list Justin as a she, some list Justin as a he, so it's all kind of mixed up. The The mug shots that you see, some of them Justin looks like a woman, long hair, whatever. Some of them Justin's got like a goatee, looks like a dude. So Justin says that she's transgender, so we're going to call her she.
Cool.
But at first, like, I was reading all this and everything was referring to Justin as he, and then I was like reading another article and it's like she did this and she did this, and I was like, what's going on? And so there you go. So Justin's transgender. She was a stripper from Tampa, according to police reports, but had been in Key West for a decent amount of time and seemed to be homeless, which is, of course, unfortunately, a really common problem for transgender people. There are a few other incidents before this murder where she had come into contact with police. So she had agreed to go into a drug rehab program on April 21st, after she had a clash with Key West police officers. She was charged with resisting arrest, violence, possession of marijuana. So that's in April. And then she was listed as homeless. In August, the beginning of August, so shortly before the murder, they found her passed out in front of the community college on Stock Island, which is basically kind of the island next to Key West, and it's kind of part of Key West. And it's where a lot of like the administrative stuff is. The hospital's there, community college is there, the jail is there.
Naval Air Base.
Yeah, the Naval Air Base is partially there. And so it's kind of like where there was land, right? There's a lot of houses and stuff in Key West, and there wasn't room to put big stuff like that. So that's all on Stock Island.
The dump might be in Stock Island.
The dump is also on Stock Island, yeah. She was passed out in front of the community college. The cops got there. She had walked over to the hospital, also on Stock Island. They found her outside the rehab center, and she started cursing at officers. And so until this point, you can kind of go like, feel sort of bad for Justin. Like, Justin is transgender, was working as a stripper, now is homeless, has a drug problem, is really down on her luck. And, you know, she's having run-ins with the cops, which is what happens when those things are true. But here's where we get to stop feeling bad for Justin, because Officer Gustavo Medina, who incidentally was Officer of the Year last year in the Key West Police Department,
Officer Medina,
writes in the report, quote, several N-bombs were said along with others when describing how Justin cursed at the police. You can't use that word, Justin. You can't use that word and be okay.
Nope.
So then apparently she tried to spit on the other officer and kick Officer of the Year Medina. And so they arrested her. All right, so that's August 4th. So apparently, I'll post up a picture. I put a picture in my notes of Gustavo Medina getting his $500 check for being Officer of the Year in 2018.
Well, good job.
They also found, it says, police found 1.8 grams of marijuana in Calhoun's gold purse, which is just, they put the little detail in there. She had a gold purse.
I don't think that's a lot, though.
I gotta say, I don't really know.
But 1.8 grams seems like a speck.
Yeah, it seems like not that much. You're right. All right, so 10 days later, Mark Brann was attacked early on August 14th in his house in Newtown, Key West, which is sort of like where the newer houses are. It's not like the old downtown by Mallory Square.
There's Old Town, and then there's Newtown, and then there's Bahama City, Bahama
Village.
Yep,
that's
a couple little neighborhoods.
Indeed. So Calhoun is at Brann's house. The two had been having a sexual relationship, according to Calhoun, and they get into a fight. They get into a fight because Calhoun, she says that she accused Brann of being a cannibal. I don't know why. There's no evidence that he was a cannibal.
That might make people upset.
And it sounds like there was an argument and it was escalating, and then she says, and you're a fucking cannibal, and is a little freaked out. And so there's a gun on the bed. The two of them are in bed. There's a gun on the bed.
Sure.
It's Florida. Calhoun says that Brann, the victim, grabbed the gun that was on the bed. Calhoun grabbed his wrist, and the gun went off. So they're fighting for the gun. The gun goes off. That's not how he dies, though.
I was going to say, nobody. Also, we only have one person's account, don't we? The other one ends up dead.
The other one ends up dead.
So no reason to believe this account.
In any case, the gun goes off, but no one is shot. with the gun. Calhoun then racked the pistol, planning to shoot Brann with it, and then it jammed.
Ooh.
So she's gonna shoot him. He didn't get shot the first time. So now she's like, I've got the gun. I'm gonna shoot him.
She's explaining this to the cops at some point.
Oh yeah. Okay. The firearm jammed. Now she's really pissed off. So she grabs a pen.
I don't think I'm gonna like this.
This is where it gets bad. If you don't like gruesome, one, you shouldn't be listening to true crime podcasts. Two, this is where you need to skip ahead.
But if you do like gruesome, maybe this is the payoff. Go ahead.
She grabs a pen and stabs him in both of the eyes with the pen. This does not kill him.
Oh.
So then they start fighting.
I bet it hurts though, real bad.
It hurts. And they're struggling, and there's a dresser involved. I can't tell if they fought each other and ran into this dresser, but pieces of the dresser are getting broken off.
Ugh.
Yeah, the dresser is being disassembled. So she takes a piece of wood that breaks off the dresser. She jams it into his mouth,
Jesus.
stands up, and stomps on it to like jam it down his throat. This also does not kill him.
Rasputin-like.
She says she wanted to silence him. So apparently I want you to shut up, so I'm going to jam this piece of wood down your throat and stomp on it.
I think her story about this is almost worse than what happened.
Yeah. So we're not done. Next, she grabs a drawer from the dresser and beats him in the head and the neck with the dresser drawer. In the police reports, it says Calhoun admitted he went beyond self-defense. So he's called he in these police reports. But yeah, she's like, yeah, I get that this was more than self-defense.
Under anyone's version of the story.
Your dad is a lawyer, by the way, so he can offer proper interpretation.
I think this is very commonsensical.
Indeed.
I'm with the cops on this one.
All right, so she stabbed him in the eyes. She's stomped the piece of wood down his throat. She's beaten him around the head. He's not dead, though I think he's not conscious at this point.
Please.
She grabs her backpack, grabs some money, grabs a dress, but jumps out of the bedroom window. She's naked, and the cops are coming. I think there was another person in the house when this all was happening, so the cops are coming. And so it says lots of articles said that she avoided police for a time by jumping fences and climbing on rooftops. So she is a ground floor, like there's a one-story, like a ranch-style house. So she goes out the window onto the ground, naked, climbing fences, and then apparently, I don't know, climbing trellises onto the roofs of other houses.
Creepy naked person on your roof.
Yeah. So they eventually caught her. They charged her with robbery with a deadly weapon, possession of cocaine, and possession of hydrocodone.
Robbery?
Yeah, I guess because she took the money, maybe. And
murder.
Well, he didn't die at the time, so he went to the hospital.
Assault with the intent to kill.
And then eventually, I think the next day, died from his injuries. Yeah, I mean, really terrible. Such a gruesome, terrible murder. So this is August 14th, 2017 that this happened.
Just before Irma?
Hurricane Irma was September 10th, 11th.
Oh, a month before.
Of 2017, yeah. But this is going on a while ago, and I was trying to figure out what happened. Hasn't gone to trial yet. So she is still being held in jail awaiting trial, now also for murder charges.
Yeah, please.
Well. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't have a great. And then she was sentenced. I don't know. Do they still have the death penalty in Florida?
If they have it anywhere, probably also in Florida.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They may have recently abolished it.
I don't know if this one would get kind of a death penalty thing anyway. I mean, it's obviously as gruesome as you can get, but it seems more like a in the heat of the moment thing as opposed to a premeditated.
True.
thing.
I mean, it wasn't like a murder plot. It was just violent fight.
And I mean, it seems like drugs were involved. Obviously, she had a drug problem. We know from the other stuff. And she had drugs on her. And it seems like you're real high on some drugs and then start doing this.
Yeah. I don't know. It's with a firearm makes it worse, probably. But who knows whose it was? This is very
Yeah, I mean, it's his house.
Right.
And, you're right. I mean, we only have her account of what happened.
I don't see any self-defense in there. I mean, she doesn't say he attacked her.
Yeah. She says he grabbed the gun that was on the bed, and then they fought over the gun.
Oh.
And it went off. But, like, after that, she's got the gun, right? Because she tries to shoot him. And so kind of everything after that, like, if you're going to jump out the window naked, you could do it with the gun.
Yeah, if it's your
right?
gun. Yeah.
Even if it's not your gun, if you're like, this dude's going to shoot me,
Oh, yeah.
I got the gun now, I'm out.
No.
Yeah. So.
It seems just awfully violent and murdery.
Extremely murdery.
Yeah.
So there you go. One person accuses the other of being a cannibal. The other one apparently takes umbrage.
And to use a meme, well, that escalated quickly. Next thing you know, someone's got pens in his eyes.
Jeez. And like...
Splinters down his throat. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, man, like even if she's not lying at all and he did grab a gun, frankly, from the way that she reacted after that, seems like they weren't just having a chat. And she goes, Mark, I have this feeling that you're a cannibal. And he just like picks up the gun. Sounds like shit got real crazy. And he maybe was like, fuck, she's going to like do something serious, and tries to pick up the gun. And he was right, because then she did something real serious.
She would have shot him if she had.
Tried to shoot him.
The other strange thing, I guess, is just criminals are dumb. If you're going to be lying about something, this is like probably not the best lie she could have been telling, right?
Yeah.
She could have thought of more stuff. This lie is terrible for her.
No, right. If you're going to claim like self-defense, you could be like, we had this terrible fight. He came after me. I stabbed him in the eye with the pen. That didn't put him down. He still kept coming. He was like...
He fell onto the dresser with his mouth open. I mean, make some shit up.
No,
But if you're going to lie...
But she was probably on drugs, right? Not that it all excuses what she did, but like... If you're real high on drugs, like to the point that you would do something this gruesome, you're probably not thinking of great stories to get yourself out of a crime.
True. But I guess the forensics weren't that complicated in this case.
No, it doesn't seem like it. I was trying to find anything else more complicated, and this was it.
I mean, and catching a naked guy running around climbing on roofs is probably not that hard in Key West either. It's a small place. We've talked about this. There's nowhere to go. It's surrounded by water.
That's true. It's a real small island. Like, we've run the circumference of
one bridge in and out and water all around. I mean, you're not going far.
You can't really go anywhere.
Jump on all the trellises you want.
You're in Key West, like, you're literally on an island and you're not getting away.
It's over patrolled too. It wouldn't take too many cops, but
it's highly patrolled, not over patrolled.
Right, highly patrolled. Doesn't take too many cops to patrol it, and they have that and a few more.
Yeah. So there you go. That is the murder of Mark Brann. And
what a waste. What a pity.
What a terrible all around.
Just bad.
Yeah. So I got a lot of this news from the Key West Citizen, and then Florida Keys News had most of the updates on this. So thanks to all of them for the good reporting and details about all of this.
Yeah, good job, Key West cops, for...
I mean, it wasn't a hard one to crack, guys, but good job anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you can screw it up.
Yeah, and they didn't, so good job.
Good job.
Okay, so to end the podcast, after all of that awfulness, we thought we would give you a happy dog news story at the end of each episode.
Like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, exactly. To kind of send you away with something to make you feel a little bit better and maybe restore your faith in humanity or dogmanity.
Dogmanity.
Yeah. So this week's story, my total fave that a bunch of people sent me, was from the Dodo. They put up a little video of this golden retriever who was, I think, 175 pounds. And a golden retriever is supposed to weigh like 65 pounds. If it's a big one, 75 pounds. And I think its owners I think it's a he, brought him in to have him euthanized because he couldn't really stand up anymore. He was having a really hard time. And the vet's like, the only thing that's wrong with this dog is that it's 100 pounds overweight. And so they found a foster home to take the dog. So basically the owners who had the dog voluntarily gave him up. Foster home took him in, and they were interviewing the foster mom. She's like, I had no idea what to do with this dog. Like, I knew we had to lose weight, but like...
The picture makes him look like a seal.
Oh my God.
Like the legs don't actually protrude much.
No, I mean it's so sad. Like you see, in the poor thing, just like can't stand up, and so they're like, we put him on this strict diet, and then we had him exercise. We tried to take him to the park, and he couldn't walk very far. They said when they got him home, it took 20 minutes to get him up the 3 steps into the house, because you can't lift a dog that weighs 175 pounds.
No.
But they did like underwater treadmill, to take some of the pressure off the joints, and then they found like a park that I think had like a little stream in it that he could swim in.
Slide.
It did have like a little like slope down into the water, and then he'd like paddle around in there, and
It's adorable.
yeah, and then he could start going farther, and his joints got better. And she's like, at one point, like he reached back and like scratched his back leg or chewed on his back leg, and I was like, oh, like this is such progress.
Done that in years.
I haven't been able to reach that forever. So the dog lost 100 pounds. And so now he's 75, which is a perfectly normal weight for a golden. And they have videos of the dog like romping with his dog siblings in
he
the
was like
backyard.
6 or 7, right? He's totally
like
middle-aged.
not a super old dog. So yeah, he's all better now and plays and runs and has a great time and is perfectly healthy.
That's great.
So good job, the dodo, bringing some pretty consistently good content.
Like he was as heavy as 3 dogs, now he's as heavy as 1 dog.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good job, dog.
Good job.
Good job, Fosters, to that dog.
Good job. The dog equivalent of my 600-pound life.
That's right. But didn't even need the surgery. Just closely monitored diet. I mean, that's a good thing about dogs, right? That somebody else gets to control what they eat.
That's the good thing and the bad thing. That's why they get so chubby too, because it's like you keep giving them food, they'll keep eating it.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going to say no. Is a dog going to say no to a treat? That would not happen.
We've not seen that really happen. The only time we've seen that happen is when something's very wrong.
Somebody has an internal foreign object.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. We hope you have enjoyed the crazy murder story for episode 1 of Murders in Paradise. You can follow us on Twitter. It's Murders Paradise. There's no in because that made it too long, and Twitter won't let you have a handle that long. So it's just Murders Paradise. We're Murders in Paradise on Instagram. If you subscribe to the podcast, you'll be sure to get it every time, and you can subscribe basically anywhere that you get podcasts. We're up there and live.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Excellent.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and until next week, don't conk out.
Bye.